I want to teach you an important technique in Illustrator shape maneuvering and drawing and getting things organized. That's to lathe and to reflect and to rotate. Now, lathing is a method of making a shape that has, just like you would if you were carving on a lathing device in a wood shop, where you put a block of wood in and it spins, and then with uh, chisels you cut away and smooth down the wood until you make a banister or a spoke or a shape that can ends up being round, but in the spinning of it, you're actually cutting away the shape. Now I've got a shape here, a black shape, and then the same shape with its stroke only and no fill. This is a fill and no stroke. And it let's call this a banister where it's a rounded bulge here. If I'm looking at a half cross section, now I'm going to take this shape here and make it easier for you. I'm going to make a copy of it, and I'm going to put it over here on this center line so it's backed up to the center. And I'm going to then select that and change it to Command 5. It's now a guideline. I want you to use that guideline as the tool or template to draw this with. Now I'm with a black fill, no stroke. Take my pen tool, and this is a combination of curved lines and straight lines. I'm going to start right on this guideline. That's important. Click and release. And I want a straight line, so I'm going to hold the shift key down so it comes over exactly straight to that point. And I'm still drawing straight lines, so I'm going to come down here. I don't have to reconnect with a straight line drawing. I come here and I click, and I have a right angle there. Now I'm going to reconnect and start a series of curved lines. So from here, I'm going to go down through this about a third of the way through, well, to that point, and then I'm going to make the line bend back to find that angle that's been predetermined by my guideline. Then reconnect in the last anchor point and come around the bulge of this shape and bring it out to meet the specifications of the template. Or now I'm going to click on the last anchor point and come back down here to the bottom and make that fit in that bottom curve. Now it's three more straight lines. So it's a curve, so I have to reconnect it. Now holding the shift key down, the shift key makes the line go exactly vertical or exactly horizontal, or one other exactly 45-degree angle. This is going to be a horizontal. Click to here. And well, that was a vertical. Now horizontal back to the guideline. And one last time, the shift key still down, and see that little zero show up by the pen tool. That means I'm closing this shape. Bingo. And when I get through, I now have, if I take this off, I have my shape. And I'm going to change that from stroke to fill and just do that, and I've now got my shape. Now, that's the lathing process. No matter how complicated this shape is here, whether you have a template or whether you're making up as you go, or you have different guidelines to help you find that, this is the lathing shape. But we only have half of it. Now remember, when this lathe turns on a real wood lathe, it's symmetrical because it's spinning, and the way you carve it, it's symmetrical. So that's the reflect part of this. Now I'm going to take this piece and put it here on the down below this place, and I'm going to reflect it in that I'm going to take this half and make another half on the other side and then join them together. Now in order to do that, I'm going to select this half, and I'll make a copy and just set it up here, just so if I mess something up, I can have that go. Now I've got the copy here as well, but it's let's just say that wasn't there, and now I've got this copy just in case I need to go get it. But here is my half piece. I select it, and it has to be sitting right on that center guideline. That's important because I'm going to rotate it on that guideline and put the other half that I don't see yet there. Now, this means I go get a reflex tool, these two little triangles looking at each other, or one triangle looking in the mirror, whatever. And first of all, I got to select this unit here. Now I take my reflex tool and I put it right on that line. You see how it's not there, because that's where it's going to rotate from. So I put my reflex tool right on the line, anywhere along there because it should be perpendicular. Hold down the Option key as the trigger key to get all this started and click once. And I get the reflex box. It comes open by default vertical 90 degrees. That means it's going to go from left to right. If you want to go from top to bottom, you would choose horizontal and make this 180 degrees. And then it will go from top to bottom. But I'm not going on top to bottom. I'm going left to right. So it's vertical 90. And I want to copy. I don't want to just move the original one side to the other. I want the original to stay. So I hit copy, and voila, I have two sides. Now that little tiny gap in there, you have to correct that by selecting this other side. And I was slightly off on where I put that reflex crossbar. So I'm going to just hit the right arrow on my keyboard until it's still not together. I need that white space gone. It's still there. One more. That's the third time. Okay, the white space is gone. They've overlapped, and you need that to overlap. Now there's my full shape. But actually, if I select on them, you can see they're two pieces. And here's where we start dealing with a very, very important tool, Pathfinder. That's why I have you set up of the three palettes in our perfect page. This is the color group. This is the type and lettering group. The Pathfinder, transparent, and layers. Pathfinder is a very important tool. The one I'm going to use right now is this tool right here. It's called the Unite, or it melts things together, 2 or 3 or 4 objects into one object. Now you have to select both these units, and they have to be overlapped so there's no white showing in there. And you come up here to this key. Now the trigger key here is the Command key, that big key on each side of the space bar. And I hold down the Command key and I hit the Unite button. Bingo. And see what happened? That line went away. It actually melted these two sides into one unit, and there's one bounding box around it. And so I've taken the half and made another half, joined them together exactly straight up and down here, and I've got a single unit here. So if I make a copy of this and bring it over, I've got a single unit, no matter what color it is. Well, I bent the stroke. Let's make it the fill. No matter what stroke it is, it's that shape. All right, that's the lathing area, and this is the reflex, where you take two units and put them together and make one out of them. Okay, now I'm going to move this up here out of the way. Or let's see, I'll put it down here, and these two I'm going to put off to the side. The next thing I want to show you is the rotate tool. We've done lathing, we've done reflecting, now rotating. Now I'm going to go right click, and my guides didn't come up here. Let's see, let's make sure I get the guide. Well, all right, let's go to view and guides, and see where lock guides. I'm going to unlock my guides, and I'm going to take this one and I'm going to move it. I'm not going to get rid of it. I'm just going to set it over here out of the way. And then I'm going to go back to my guides, view, guides, and lock guides, and lock them back up again. You've got to remember to do that, or else you're going to be moving your guidelines around when you move other stuff. When you just do a marquee and select something, it's going to select the guideline, and when you move it, the guide's going to move. So keep them locked, unless you're going to eliminate them or move them. Now, rotate. Center line, horizontal cross line, center point of reference. If I take a I'm going to make a rectangle, and I'm going to put it right down this guideline and center on that guideline. Just a long, narrow rectangle. Okay. Now, I want to make these things rotate around and make a circle of these marks. That's going to be the center point of reference. So I select the tool, and I go to the rotate tool, the circular dotted arrow. I select that, and I put it right over the cross guidelines here, the center point of reference. Hold down the Option key and click once, and you get a rotate box. Now, the last thing I used was 90. If I did 90, I'd have 4. One there, one here, one there. If I have 45 degrees, if I click 45, I'm going to have 8, because there'll be one here and one here and one here. Let's do that. It has to be something that divides into 360. Now you can do that evenly if you divide it by 10 degrees or 20 degrees or 45 degrees. It divides itself into 360. If you want 17 of these things, you're going to have to divide 17 into 360 and get a point two figure decimal point number. So you might have 37.26 degrees, and that would give you 17 around. Let's do 45. Now, if the angle is, there's a plus here in this that you don't see the plus, but if I make it a minus, it will rotate clockwise. If I don't have the minus there, it will rotate counterclockwise. Let's go minus 45, and you hit, of course, copy. And you get the first one. Great. Now all you have to do is hit Command D to duplicate. There's the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one, the seventh one, the eighth one. Stop there so you don't put bars on top of bars on top of bars. So we broke that up into 45s, and we get 8 ticks around the clock. Now let's back up, Command Z, and let's do that 17. So I need to know what my arrow would be. You can get your calculator out. I'm just going to do this really quick. 360 divided by 17 equals 21.17647 according to my little calculator. So I'm going to go 21.18, just round it off. All right, so I'm going to take my reflex tool and come here and hold down the Option key and click once. And I'm going to make this a minus number, so it rotate clockwise. And the 17 divides into 360, 21.18. And then I hit copy. And then Command D for duplicate, the first one in the copy. Now I'm duplicating. There's 3. And Command D, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So if you, for some reason, wanted to have 17 marks around this circle, that's how you would do it. And that's reflecting. And that's how it's going to happen. Now if I back those up again, let's say I wanted to have something a little more complicated. And I took a shape that was that rectangle, and I put a little dot above the top here. Option key and Shift key, it grows from the center out, and I'll put a dot like it was an eye or something. And now I'm going to take that shape, both those shapes, rotate tool, come to the center point of reference, hold down the Option key, click once, and I'm going to make that minus, again that same number, I want 17, 21.18, 18. Okay, then I hit copy, and both of them twirl. And then the next step is Command D, and I do that so that they go all the way around until they have 17. So you can have multiple shapes as long as they're all selected, and you don't want them to run into each other here. Now if they ran into each other, I could make these marks thinner, or I could have less marks. If 17 had to be there, then that. But if I make those much thicker as rectangles to start with, they're going to run into each other, and that may or may not solve your problem, what you're making. So that's the use of the reflex tool to get shapes to run around in a circle. If you put a minus in front of it, it makes it go clockwise. If there's no minus, it will go counterclockwise. It doesn't really matter one way or the other when you're finished with it, but that's how you do this. If you were making a clock, there's 12 sections around the clock, and you would divide 12 into 360. Let's see, that's 360 divided by 12. The angle would be 30 degrees, and you would have 12 sections, for your clock. If you were making a second tick, the marks for a second hand to tick to, you would divide 360 by 60. Let's see what that is. 360 divided by 60. Then you would make your angles 6 degrees. Now, of course, you'd have to have a very narrow tick on that to make it work, but that would be how it would turn out. Let me just do that real quick. So if I have a little tick mark up here, and I'm making the face of a clock, and I put one very narrow little tick mark here. I don't know how narrow that is, but I'll go with that. I'm going to move it back out and put it back together here. Okay. Now I take that's selected, so I take my tick mark here, or my center point of reference with my reflex tool, Option key down, and let's keep it minus, and it's 6 degrees, 6, and I hit copy. Okay, there's that one. Now Command D, and I do Command D until I get 60 of them. I'm not counting, I'm just doing it. But if I was making a clock face and I wanted a thick tick mark, second tick, that's how I'd do it. And that gives you the amount. Now it might be pretty heavy. You could go back and make these thinner, but now you can see what you're doing here to get this to play out as your rotate tool and how it works. So you might want to practice that. We'll have some projects coming up here in this week's lessons that has you using these tools, but I wanted you to see them first and maybe practice on your own and get the hang of it before we start back with actual projects you're going to hand in.